At first, I refused to sign her petition. My neighbor broke into my garage, set fire to my tools, and left a note on my door that read, "No one tells me no." I lost $7,000 worth of equipment, and my only way to earn money, but when I saw her son wearing my custom jacket, I knew exactly how I'd start. The first thing I see is the ash. It cakes the floorboards in the garage like someone forgot to sweep for a month. The smell hits me before anything else: hot rubber, burnt leather, a sick sour chemical tang that sits behind my nose and makes my eyes water. My chest tightens and my hands go numb because the things in that garage are not things to me. They're muscle memory. They're the way I eat, the way I talk to people, the way I tell stories without words. Tools that make leather sing. Machines that stitch seams true. A compressor. My workbench. $7,000 in equipment and a decade of guarantees, custom measurements, and client notes. Gone or ruined. I should have been careful. I should have locked a different way. But that night, I remember falling asleep on the couch with a mug gone cold in my hand and the dog sleeping in a pile against my knees. I wake to the sound of the department knocking, hard, on my front door. "Sir, we need you to step back." The firefighter's voice is far away and hollow, like they're speaking from the other side of glass. The smoke detectors chirped through the paper-thin walls, but I barely heard them over the drum of my heart. The man who runs the department, Chief Alvarez, crouches at the garage mouth with a notepad. He's polite, like he's delivering bad news about a power bill. "Looks like an electrical short," he says. "Faulty extension, maybe some old wiring." "It's sorry, man. Accidental fires happen." He flips a page, and his apology folds into the weather like it's nothing. "You saw the note?" I say. My voice is flat. I push past him and step inside the garage. The note is taped to my front door where I left it the night before. White paper or block letters that look like someone with long nails wrote them. "No one tells me no," it says, and under it, a crude slash of black marker. Chief Alvarez reads it, shrugs, and says, "Could be a prank. Could be a coincidence." He taps his ash-stained gloves on his thigh and starts to talk about claims and insurance and how long it will take him to fill out the forms. I stand there and watch. The flames have done what flames do: reduce what used to be to shape and shadow. My poster of the first custom jacket I ever sold curls at the corners like paper flowers. The compressor hisses out a last breath. I count the holes in the metal tool chest and the places where screws melted out of their sockets. I think of how I'm supposed to make money next week. 2 weeks before, the woman across the street, Marisol Ruiz, had knocked on my door at dusk with a clipboard and a smile the size of tax form. Her frosting hair and perfect ponytail made her look like she stepped out of a magazine. She wanted me to sign a petition for a new community garden. She used words like ours and we and improvement. I said no. No. I told her because I had lived in the neighborhood for 12 years and I knew what a petition became. I knew the garden would mean someone else's convenience and my parking space lost, and the garden committee would become a new HOA in all but name. I had bills due and a truck to keep. I did not need another committee. I told her I liked my yard the way it was. "You'll change your mind," she said, palms open like she was offering me a slice of pie. "It's for the neighborhood." I held the clipboard without signing. She left and waved like she hadn't been met by the word no at all. After the fire, I learned Marisol had not learned to accept no. Neighbors said she complained to the council. She complained about cars parked too long. She called for more streetlights. "She has energy," Mrs. Patel said when she pulled up her porch chair to talk. "She organizes. People love her. But you hurt her, Miguel. Or she feels hurt." People called it drama. People also called it shame. The department called it an accident. I filed a claim. I called insurance. They tell me about deductibles and depreciation. Their sympathy sounds practiced. The insurance will cover the machines at maybe half what I paid. I understand numbers better than most. The math swallows optimism. 1 month passes, and I put my life back together the only way I know, one small stitch at a time. I borrow a sewing machine from a friend. I sell a jacket for less than I should to cover the rent. I start taking on small repairs in the living room. My hands remember the rhythm of needle and thread. But the guitars of the world require more than one string, and I am always counting costs. Then, 2 Sundays after I've patched myself back into a rhythm, I see the jacket. I'm at the corner diner, my coffee cooling in a paper cup, and I look up because kids on bikes always make me look. Movement, story. There's a boy, tall for his age, 14 maybe, with his hair too long at the ears and his shoulders square in a jacket I made 2 winters ago. A custom racer, black cowhide, contrast red stitch, inside label sewn at an angle with my logo. Rook Leatherworks, custom fit, serial 7241. My coffee freezes at my lips. I watch him ride past. The jacket is distinctive. The leather has a patch I sewed on the left elbow, a small silver star, and the zipper won't lie. That jacket was for Justin Hale, who lives 3 towns over. I remember because I drove it down to Cincinnati in a box and felt proud the whole way back. I made sure to photograph the inside tag and send Justin an email with a serial for warranty. I document my jackets because people lose things and sometimes because people steal them. This boy's jacket is mine. I park the truck, every muscle a taut wire. I follow him with a slow, idiot's curiosity that tastes like revenge. He hangs up his bike behind Marisol's porch as if it's his house. I stand under the maple tree and look up at the second-floor window where a pair of plants hangs. A kid peeks at me from behind the curtain. "Can I help you?" Marisol says before I have a chance to knock. She appears, hair in its steady ponytail, wearing an apron from some church bake sale. Her smile is ready. "Your son," I say. "He's wearing one of my jackets." She looks at the street, at the boy who is now maybe sweeping the porch, and her smile tightens. "Ethan," she says. "Oh, he's been into that style. He buys his own stuff." I say the name aloud, Ethan Ruiz, and she nods like she has nothing to hide. I point to the jackets inside and the slanted label. Serial number 7241. I registered that with the buyer. She laughs like someone trying not to cough. "There are a lot of jackets that look like that, Miguel. They don't have my label stitched at that angle," I say. My mouth is dry. I don't want to make the neighborly scene. I want my jacket back. "You're accusing my son?" Her voice sharpens in a way that tells me she knows how a question can do damage. "I'm saying you have my property." We stand at an impasse like 2 old doors caught in a storm. People walk past. An old man tips his hat. The boy watches from the porch like he's watching someone else's play. Marisol leads me into her living room, where the air smells like lemon cleaner and cinnamon from the oven. She folds her hands. Her face is carefully blank. "Listen," she says, "I don't appreciate you accusing my family. If you have a real problem, go to the police." "That's what I plan to do," I say. "But I was hoping we could fix it without the paperwork." She studies me a long moment, then nods like she has decided I can be tolerated. "I'll ask him about it," she says. "If it's yours, he'll bring it back." Problem solved. I leave and feel like I've planted a small seed, and maybe it will sprout into nothing. Maybe I will never see that jacket again. But a seed is something, too, and seed can be clever. The first major twist in my plan comes the very next day. I post a photo on the neighborhood page, a clear picture of the jacket's inside label, serial 7241, and a short note. "Lost or stolen custom jacket. If you know where it is, please message me." The post is plain. It says nothing about the Ruiz family. People start to comment. Someone remembers a kid at the diner with a jacket. Someone else says they saw a similar jacket at the skate park. The post is shared, liked, and carries its own small momentum. I reply to private messages and I answer every commenter with the same steady calm I wish I had that first week in the garage. Patient, factual, unblinking. Marisol replies to the thread with a one-line comment. "My son just bought a jacket at a thrift shop. Nice people here." She pins the word thrift with the eager shrug of someone who thinks it absolves guilt. I know better than to accuse her publicly. I keep my posts measured, but I also know how stories work. I've been telling stories with leather for a long time. You stitch a line, and people see shape. You stitch 2, and you have pattern. I start to stitch. Call to action. If you're enjoying the ride so far, hit like and subscribe. Drop your city in the comments. Tell me if you've ever had a neighbor cross the line. It helps me tell these stories, and I read every comment. Now back to the jacket. After that post, something changes. People come to me with small things they've seen. Mrs. Patel brings pictures from her Ring camera, Ethan coming and going. An electrician says he saw someone near my garage a week before the fire. An index of movement forms like the outline of face. The internet does what it does. It gathers, it remembers. Stories become a map. I want two things. First, I want my property back. Second, I want justice. Not the kind that ruins a life, but the kind that rebalances the world when someone believes they can tell anyone no and get away with it. I file a police report. I hand over my serial numbers and receipts. The officer, young, bored, new enough to still be polite, takes my forms and says, "We'll look into it." The words hang like a promise, thin and hopeful. Weeks pass. I sell more patch jobs. I sleep improperly. The fire department's accident is still a weight I carry in my pockets. Bills stack like thin, unforgiving paper. Then, the turn of a knife. Ethan posts a photo on his feed, him and his friends at a car meet, the jacket draped across his shoulders like armor. The photo is low-res, but the inside label is out in the open because he's leaning on the hood and the jacket falls back where the zipper pulls. Someone tags me. I download the photo and blow it up. The serial is faint but visible. My hands shake as I call the officer assigned to the case. "Detective Rivers," he says. I had met him when I filed the report. He's the officer who actually reads things. "You found something?" "I have proof," I say. His jacket, the serial, he's wearing in public. Detective Rivers tells me to send the image. He says he'll check pawn shops, thrift stores, and online marketplaces. He says the department will pursue the lead. His voice is steady. I want to believe it like a child believes Santa, but I have learned the city does not always move the way it should. People who did harm can slip between procedures and policies. So I take matters into my own hands, carefully. I am a maker. I use materials I own. I use what I know how to do without instructing anyone else to break the law. I create a knockoff jacket, close enough to be convincing at a glance, but altered inside to tell a story only I know. I embroider a small line of text in invisible ink on the inner tag. I label it with a serial I invent, $99.99. It's not the real jacket. It's bait. I list it for sale on a local marketplace under a fake name, a throwaway account with a burner phone number. I make the description irresistible, like new, rare custom racer. Must pick up. Cash only. I pick locations where kids like Ethan will see things. The skate park, the car meet, the diner. I leave the pickup address vague. Downtown, near the arcade, and arrange for the meeting to be during the hour kids drift in and out. I do not tell anyone the whole plan. I do not set a trap that could hurt someone. I set a lure that would draw out a buyer who wants something on the cheap. A message pings in my burner account. Interested. Meet tomorrow. The day of the meet, I sit in the truck and watch the arcade. People come and go, faces like cards. I wait because waiting is a skill, and I have learned it recently. Ethan shows up with two boys. He sees the jacket and smiles. He takes it in his hands, runs his fingers over the leather, checks the zipper. He asks questions like a buyer. I watch from the truck as he walks away with the jacket under his arm. He climbs into a car and drives off. I follow him at a distance, not too close, not obvious. The car pulls into Marisol's driveway. He gets out and takes the jacket inside like it's the usual course of his day. I radio Detective Rivers. I tell him where the car is, what it looks like, the license plate. He gets there in under 10 minutes. Two officers step out and knock on the door. Marisol opens the door. The young men freeze on the porch with the jacket in their hands. I stand across the street and notice the way the porch light washes their faces. Detective Rivers speaks in the tone of someone who has listened to too many excuses. He asks for the jacket. He asks where they got it. He asks for ID. Ethan's eyes flicker to the zipper like a twitch. He says something like, "We found it." His voice is thin. The officers ask him to open it. Inside, the jacket I planted sits with its inner tag in plain view. Detective Rivers pulls the tag and unfolds a stitched line of text. The text is mild. My name, a phone number, and the words, "Property of Rook Leatherworks." Registration, $99.99. It's not the serial for the stolen jacket, but it shows a pattern. Kids taking jackets and bringing them home to Marisol's porch. They question Ethan hard. The officers ask him if he knows where he bought the real jacket. He says his friend gave it to him. The friend is gone. It's the classic dance of teenagers. It's messy and small and circumstantial. I walk up the walkway before anyone asks me to. I hold in my hand a stack of receipt copies, photos, messages, and a printout from my post showing the jacket serial. I slide them across the officer's clipboard like a clean, surgical offering. Detective Rivers takes a breath and reads. He asks Marisol about the night of the fire. He asks her about the petition. She stiffens like something struck. You started this, she says suddenly, voice raw. You put up your post to shame us. You. Her mouth opens and closes. You started a war. You set fire to my garage, I say. You left a note. She laughs then, a short, startled sound that does not reach her eyes. I wouldn't, she stops. She looks at the officers. I did visit the garage that night to tell Miguel to stop blocking the sidewalk with his work truck. I saw a spark near his extension cord. I left. Her hands shake. Detective Rivers writes notes. He does not say whether he believes her, but he does, at last, keep a record and agree to look into the matter with the fire marshal. That's the first move on my chessboard. It's small. It's the kind of move that can be mistaken for nothing, but it changes how the pieces feel. After that visit, Marisol acts strange around me. She no longer pops by with baked goods. She no longer smiles with the ease of a woman who owns every conversation. Ethan's jacket disappears from the porch and then reappears in the yard under a pile of autumn leaves like someone hid it and forgot. More threads come in. A pawn shop across town says they took in a leather jacket matching my description and sold it for cash 7 days after my fire. The man behind the counter remembers the buyer's face. It matches Ethan's friend in the photo he posted. Detective Rivers gets a warrant to check the pawn shop camera footage. Sudden movement. I watch the grainy video and recognize the jacket's outline. The way the left elbow has that little repair I made after road rash. The pawn shop handed over paperwork with a name that leads to the friend's mother, who is a server at the diner. I'm not proud of how all of this unfolds. There's a practical, cold part of me, that is. I measure evidence and make plans. But revenge, real revenge, cannot be only paperwork. It must twist at the heart of the person who thought they could tell someone no and burn them down. So I stop being a man who sits still and start being a man who writes banners. I buy into the local community page again, not with pleading, but with facts. I post the pawn shop document and the ring screenshots and the photo of Ethan with serial 7241. I tell the story without venom. I do not name call. I post the receipts and the police report number. I write in simple, direct language because that is the voice people listen to when their own yards are at stake. People begin to write back. More came forward with things they thought didn't matter. A woman who found a spare tool head in her alley. A kid who remembers Marisol's son bragging about that jacket at the skate park. It becomes a chorus. Nothing like a chorus to wake a sleepy town. Marisol pushes back with her own post claiming harassment. She posts prayer group photos. She calls the chairman of the neighborhood committee and asks for a mediation meeting. People take sides like old curtains. Then the real twist hits. The fire marshal calls me to his office with a low, private voice I can hear through the receiver. Miguel, we examined the scene again, he says. There's something off about the way the accelerant burned. The pattern isn't consistent with an electrical short. There's residue. He doesn't say the word arson. Not yet. He says, we're going to need to talk. I sit in his office and watch the light through the blinds. He flips through his folder and shows me the report in fragments. He says things like intent and deliberate in a voice that suddenly makes my stomach drop. We talk about dates and times and neighbors and the hammer note. Marisol is called in for questioning. She denies everything. She talks about a petition, about how community spirit leads to disagreements. She cries a little at the edges, but in a way that looks rehearsed. Detective Rivers is careful. He knows this is delicate. What I hadn't expected is how many people do not like being lied to. What I also did not expect is how a mother will act when her child looks likely to be part of something that could put him on the wrong side of the law. Ethan comes into the station with his shoulders hunched and an apology that cracks to pieces in his mouth. He is small and scared. He looks at me like I am the outcome of a bad dream. He admits he and his friend did take items after the fire, tools and small things from the garage while people were moving stuff out. He says they didn't mean to hurt me. He says they thought I was moving. He says Marisol was at the door when they came back. I told them to take what they wanted. Marisol says, I didn't think. Her voice crumbles and she looks at Ethan. She says she was angry because she thought I had stolen her parking spot with my truck, and because the petition made her feel excluded. She did not intend to set fire. It is complicated and bad and somehow human. When the confession comes, it is not clean. There are arguments and legal parsing. There are tears. There are consequences. Marisol is charged with negligence and set to appear in court. The fire marshal says the evidence supports a charge of reckless endangerment and possible arson. Ethan and his friend are offered diversion programs for juvenile theft. The pawn shop gets reviewed. The neighborhood divides like a snapped stick. Some rally to Marisol, some to me. The newspapers play with the images, garage ash, and the faded label of a custom jacket. People call shows. The story becomes about more than a jacket. It becomes about power. That's where I wanted to be. Not in the headlines for revenge, but where the truth sits in the middle of the room like a lamp you can't ignore. The last twist is the clever part one promised myself when I saw that jacket on Ethan. I could have let the system run, let the police unfold it like a dull towel. Instead, I take what was mine, not by theft or by trickery that hurts people, but by making the misdeed visible. I get my stuff back through the police with an inventory list that reads like a tally of things someone else used to buy their morning coffee. Some tools are ruined beyond repair. Some are returned like penitent children. The jacket, $7,241, comes back with a coffee stain on the cuff and the scuff I remember near the pocket. It smells like the house it lived in, like lemon cleaner and teen sweat. I hold it and feel the threads of what happened. The petition, the insistence, the note on my door that said N01 tells me NO. Marisol's court date is a week from Friday. The neighborhood comes out in away streets only do when something bigger than themselves is at stake. People testify. The judge listens. In the end, Marisol is ordered to pay restitution for my equipment where the fire was proven to be deliberate and to attend community mediation and counseling. Ethan receives community service and must attend a job training program. The charges of arson are negotiated down because the evidence is complicated and because sometimes the law finds compromise more comfortable than harshness. It's not a perfect victory. It never was. The $7,000 was not fully restored by insurance, but neighbors helped. A few dozen people came to the fundraiser I didn't want to accept, but needed. A bake sale held by Mrs. Patel, where kids with reluctant smiles sold brownies like they were winning a war. I took in $500 and a handful of business leads. Someone hired me to make a jacket for a biker club. Small stitches into a larger seam. The final part one will carry is how I stood outside the courthouse when Marisol left, a folded envelope in my hand. Her face was pale and not the same as the woman who had once offered me a crust of pie. I handed her the envelope. For the repair of my tools, I said. She looked at me and the envelope like it was a small animal. She took it, and in the way she did, something between us closed. There was no handshake. There was only the rustle of paper and the sound of people moving past. A month later, I took the jacket to my bench. I stitched a patch into the lining, a small star in silver thread to cover the coffee stain. I restored the scuff pocket. I started to take on better clients. I bought a used compressor, and I learned to sleep at night without the savage edge of fear biting my throat. People told me I should have let it go. People told me that revenge was a dark thing. I think they were partly right. What I wanted was not revenge for the sake of pain. What I wanted was the return of truth. I wanted the town to see that someone couldn't pick up a match in a mood and burn another man's life for the shape of a parking place. And yet, I will say this. There's a satisfaction that comes not from making someone suffer, but from making them see what they did and owning it. Marisol saw it. She paid. She lost the right to charm every room. She no longer organized the garden committee with that same sweet cruelty. Ethan eventually came to my shop, hands rough from work, and asked if I could teach him how to stitch straight. He wanted to do right. I took him on for minimum wage and taught him how to cut a pattern. He learned, and he apologized with the clumsy honesty of someone who has to rebuild more than just a jacket. He has to rebuild trust. He sweated through the night and made me a belt that I wear when I want to remember that even the people who did you harm can learn to make something useful. That night, after all of it, I sit at my bench and look at the repaired jacket hanging on the peg. I think about the note taped to my door. One tells me no. I think about how small words become actions. I think about how the line between neighbor and enemy is often as thin as a thread. I close my shop for the night. The lights go out over Reedsville Street. The maple tree drops one pale leaf. The jacket waits for its owner or for the next story I have to tell. If you like this one, tell me where you're from in the comments. Hit like and subscribe if you want more stories where people push and then meet the price of what they pushed on the rest of us. And one last thing, when someone tells you no, remember, it's your boundary, not an insult. Protect it. Stitch it tight. 2 weeks after the court hearing, things are quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't mean peace. It means someone's planning something. I can feel it in the way Marisol's blinds stay closed all day. I can feel it when I walk the dog and notice her garden plot is overgrown, like she's avoiding the neighbors who used to greet her like a queen. Ethan still shows up at my shop. He's slow, but he listens. He doesn't talk much, but when he does, it's mostly to ask questions about tools or clients. One day, as he's sweeping the floor, he glances toward the back door and says, "You think she's still mad?" I pretend not to hear the question, but I feel the weight of it. "Your mom has a lot of pride," I say. "She blames you," he replies, sweeping harder. "Says you ruined her name." I shrug. "She burned my livelihood." He doesn't argue, just keeps sweeping. But the next day, something's off. My truck door's slightly open. I never leave it like that. Inside, the glove compartment's been ransacked. A stack of invoices is missing, and so is a client list. Nothing else. No estereo. No change. No GPS. Just my records. That night, I change all my passwords and call every client I've done business with in the last 6 months. I don't accuse anyone. I just check in, ask about orders, make sure nothing's strange. But 3 days later, I get my first clue. One of my best clients, Mason, he owns a biker gear shop 2 towns over, calls to cancel his order. Said you were overcharging, he mutters, embarrassed. Said your quality was slipping. Got an anonymous tip with photos. They even claimed your jackets aren't original, just rebranded imports. I nearly dropped the phone. "Mason," I say calmly, "you've seen me cut patterns by hand. You watch me match stitching to your club's colors." I know, he sighs. But this was convincing stuff. Screenshots. A supposed whistleblower. I had to check it out. He emails me the files he got. I open the folder, and my jaw tightens. There are photos of one of my jackets next to a cheap knockoff from overseas. There's a breakdown accusing me of stealing designs. They even took a screenshot of my post about Ethan's jacket and wrote in bold red letters, "He lies. He steals. He frames kids." It's professional. Too professional. And there's no doubt in my mind, Marisol did this. Because she knew one thing better than most: how to use a community against itself. This wasn't just personal revenge anymore. This was an attack on my business. I decide I need help, not just from the cops, from someone who knows how to get dirty when someone tries to bury you clean. So I call someone I haven't spoken to in years. Her name is Danielle, but everyone in northern Kentucky calls her Red. She used to run security at concerts and later started her own PI firm. She's sharp, private, and she hates liars more than I do. She answers on the third ring. "Miguel," she says. "Damn, it's been a while. What do you need?" I send her the fake files. "Find a source," I say. "I'll pay you whatever it takes." Red doesn't ask a lot of questions. She just says, "Give me a week." In the meantime, I act normal. I keep working. I train Ethan. I even send out a discount coupon to a few of my longtime clients to keep business flowing. But it's like fighting gravity. 2 more clients ghost me. Another cancels without explanation. And then the final blow, my business account is flagged for suspicious activity. A vendor claims I used stolen credit card numbers. I spent 2 days on the phone clearing my name, faxing proof, getting bank statements. I'm not just being slandered. Someone is trying to erase me. Red calls on a Friday night. "I found your mole," she says. And it's worse than I thought. She sends me a Dropbox link. Inside are emails. Screenshots. IP logs. Everything points to an account registered under m.ruiz.community@gmail.com. It's Marisol's alternate email. Red found it tied to a Reddit post asking for tips on discrediting a small business owner quietly. She used burner accounts. Had a teenager from the community center help her format the comparison photos. Paid him in gift cards. She started spreading rumors that I was selling counterfeit gear just days after a court hearing. She even emailed the city zoning board trying to get my workshop declared non-compliant with local codes. But the worst part? She did it all from her church's Wi-Fi. I got lucky, Red says. Someone left the guest login open, and their logs show that email used church internet every Sunday between 9:30 and 11. I sit with the file open on my screen and my teeth grinding. She tried to end me. She didn't just want to punish me. She wanted me erased. And that's when I know it's not enough to survive. She has to feel it. She has to learn you don't play with fire unless you want to burn both ways. Next move? I go public. But I won't post about it online. No, this needs to be seen. So I start planning something big. Something she'll have to watch unfold day by day until it eats her from the inside. Because the jacket was just the start. And now I'm going to rebuild my name by dismantling hers. I spend the weekend making plans. Not fast ones. Not loud ones. Smart ones. This time, I won't go to war on her terms. I'll win with the one thing Marisol can't stand to lose, her reputation. Because that's what she really cares about. That's what her whole life is built on. Control, appearances, being the loudest, nicest, busiest name in town. So I build a plan that will unravel her right where she lives. In public, at her church. Red helps me put it together. She doesn't love the church angle, but I tell her this isn't about faith. It's about the line Marisol hides behind. She's scheduled to speak at the upcoming Fall Unity Brunch, an event the church hosts every year where community members give short speeches about service and giving back. Of course she's on a list. Of course she's got a whole speech ready about bringing neighbors together. It's perfect because I've got my own exhibit. Red prints a clean, simple pamphlet. Not flashy, just facts. Screenshots. The same emails Marisol sent from the church Wi-Fi. The Reddit post. The comparison shots she had that teenager edit. But on the front cover, a single question. Who do you trust in this neighborhood? I'll make 100 copies. Put them in plain brown envelopes. And I deliver them the morning of the brunch, one by one, to every single car in the parking lot. I don't sign them. I don't add commentary. I'll let the evidence speak for itself. I'll leave the last few on the folding chairs inside the church hall, tucked under the reserved for committee signs. Then I leave. I don't stay for the show, but Red does. She sits in the back row wearing a hoodie and texting me everything. And 20 minutes after it starts, I get the first message. She froze. Someone opened the pamphlet mid-speech. She saw it and completely lost her place. Then, whispers everywhere. And finally, she left early. Looked like she was about to cry. I don't feel good, but I do feel justice. Because now she knows what it feels like to be stripped of your credibility in front of the people who once cheered your name. The fallout comes quick. By Monday, 3 people resign from her garden committee. On Tuesday, the church leadership issues a statement saying they're looking into digital misconduct involving church Wi-Fi. By Thursday, someone leaves a box on my doorstep. It's filled with small tools. Damaged but mine. No note. But I know it came from her. And then, on Friday morning, I get a knock at the shop door. It's Ethan. His eyes are red. She lost it, he says. Screamed at me. Said I betrayed her. I didn't even know you were doing all this. She's not talking to me now. Said I'm the reason this all came out. I nod slowly. Not your fault. I tell him. None of this is. He swallows hard. Then he reaches into his backpack. He pulls out a flash drive. She kept everything, he says. Emails, backups. She even saved stuff from the night of the fire. I didn't know until now. I take the drive. Thank you, I say. He shrugs. You were good to me. I want to make it right. That night, I sit on my workbench with Red and open the flash drive. It's worse than we thought. There's a folder labeled Neighbor Action Plan. Inside, maps of the neighborhood with notes about who's on her side emails to zoning offices complaining about at least 6 other residents' photos she took of neighbors' yards and vehicles to submit anonymous complaints, and worst of all, a draft of a letter to CPS, implying that Ethan's friend's mom was neglecting her kid. I stare at the screen. She wasn't just coming for me. I say. Red nods. She wanted control of the whole block. I call Ethan. Do you want to be done with this? I ask. For real. He doesn't hesitate. Yes. Then you'll need to help me with one last thing. Because now it's not just about revenge. It's about protecting everyone she threatened. We don't go to the police right away. I know how slow that machine moves. We do something faster, smarter. We take it straight to the people she was targeting. It starts with Ethan and me visiting her former committee members one by one. We don't make speeches. We show them the folder. We let them see their names typed out like chess pieces, little notes next to each. Sandra P., vulnerable. Push her with praise. The Millers, report for noise complaints if needed. Call CPS if Kayla keeps leaving her kid with neighbors. We don't ask them to do anything. But by the end of the week, 5 people have filed their own complaints against Marisol. One of them, Kayla, takes the CPS letter straight to her lawyer. She's furious. This woman tried to weaponize the system against my family, she tells me, trembling. All because I didn't want to donate tomatoes to her damn garden. Another neighbor, Mr. Brenner, shares something we didn't know. She tried to get me evicted, he says. Said I wasn't maintaining my property. I'm a veteran. Been here 26 years. By now, the city's taking notice. The zoning office reopens several of Marisol's past complaints and finds patterns. Same phrasing, same documents, same anonymous formatting. Then Red finds the smoking gun. One of the emails Marisol sent to the zoning board. She used her real name. Once. Just once. Forgot to log out of her burner and into the alias. That's enough. Red forwards it to a reporter she trusts, a woman named Sloan who works at the Lexington Dispatch. Sloan does her homework fast. Within a week, a headline appears on the Dispatch's Sunday front page. Neighborhood organizer accused of harassment. False claims. They don't name the neighbors involved, but the article outlines everything. The zoning complaints, the fake CPS draft, the business sabotage. Marisol's name is bolded. By Monday, the story is everywhere. Local Facebook pages light up. People who once waved at her now whisper behind closed curtains. One mom from the church says she pulled her kid out of the same after-school program Ethan used to attend, afraid of whatever drama's brewing. Then the city does what I'd hoped for all along. They open a formal investigation into misuse of city complaint systems, and they seize her devices. Marisol tries to fight it, publicly calls it a smear campaign. But the harder she pushes, the more people push back, because people remember how she made them feel. They remember the late-night knocks, the passive-aggressive notes, the subtle threats. And now they've got proof. The final nail comes when the fire marshal reopens the case. Because of Ethan. Turns out, he remembered something else, something he thought was small. I saw her take something out of the garage before the fire started, he says. Like a rag or bag or something. She put it in her trunk. I didn't think anything of it. That triggers a whole new round of questioning. And the fire marshal finds something odd. In the remains of the garage, traces of accelerant. Yes. But also something that doesn't fit. Lavender oil and lemon polish. Same combo Marisol uses in her home. Same cleaner scent I smelled in her living room. They match it to a brand she's used, confirmed by a bottle found in her garage. It's not hard-proof, but it's another thread, one that ties back to the fire. And now she's got more than angry neighbors to deal with. She's got legal exposure. But here's the twist even I didn't expect. She still won't apologize. Not to me. Not to anyone. Instead, she doubles down. Files a defamation suit. Against me. I get served papers on a Thursday morning, claiming I orchestrated a smear campaign, claiming I used Ethan to extract private files, claiming I damaged her career and personal reputation. My lawyer looks it over and laughs once. It's desperate, she says, but we'll handle it. And then she asks the million-dollar question. Do you want to settle quietly? I look her dead in the eye. No, I say. I want to win. Publicly. Because some people only learn when the whole town watches them fall. The courtroom is colder than I expect. Not just from air conditioning, but from the stairs. It's a small claims courtroom in Lexington, Kentucky. Tight rows of folding chairs, pale green walls, and a bored clerk who's seen too many petty fights over fences and car dings. But this isn't petty. This is war. Marisol walks in wearing a charcoal gray suit, hair tight in a bun. She looks like she's walking into a beauty pageant, not a lawsuit. Her lawyer, a young guy with slick hair and too much cologne, leans in and whispers something. She nods without blinking. I sit at the defendant's table. I don't wear a suit. I wear the first jacket I ever made. The one with crooked stitching and faded elbows. The one that still smells like work and wood polish. It's not a costume. It's a reminder that I built something with my hands. And she tried to burn it down. Her lawyer starts. He tells the judge that I ruined her standing in the community. That I manipulated a teenager into stealing her private files. That I waged a personal vendetta against a respected neighborhood advocate. He even brings up the pamphlets I handed out at the church brunch. Calls it a smear campaign. I don't flinch, because I knew they'd come for that. My lawyer, Rebecca Oates, waits until they're done. Then she stands. Calm. Direct. Your Honor, she says, the plaintiff has accused my client of defamation. But everything he shared with the community was factual, backed by documents, timestamps, even witness testimony. We have video evidence, sworn statements, and a confession that her son gave us voluntarily. The judge leans forward. You're saying this teenager, Ethan Ruiz, was the one who turned over the files? Yes, Your Honor, Rebecca says. He'll be here shortly. Voluntarily. Almost on cue, Ethan walks in. He looks nervous, hands stuffed in a hoodie pockets. But he walks tall. He sits, takes the oath, and speaks clear. I gave Miguel the flash drive, he says. My mom kept those files on her laptop. I found them when she left her email open one day. What was on them? The judge asks. He swallows. Everything. Emails. Complaints. Notes about our neighbors. Even the stuff she sent to the zoning board. The judge frowns. Did he pressure you into handing it over? Ethan shakes his head. No, sir. I wanted to. I felt wrong. I wanted to do the right thing. That lands. Hard. Marisol's lawyer tries to recover. Starts talking about digital privacy and emotional distress. But the judge holds up a hand. You filed a suit claiming defamation, he says. But so far, everything the defendant shared appears to be true. Embarrassing? Yes. Damaging? Maybe. But not false. And truth is a complete defense in defamation cases. Her lawyer stammers. What about the church flyers? That's character assassination. Rebecca opens a folder. Here are affidavits from 7 neighbors, she says, laying them down. Each confirms the complaints Marisol filed against them. Most were proven false or retaliatory. We also have fire marshal reports reopening the investigation into the garage fire. The judge reads. His face hardens. He looks at Marisol. Ma'am, you weaponized local systems. You harassed neighbors, manipulated your own child, and launched a false smear campaign against a man who lost everything in a fire that is now under renewed investigation. You tried to silence him with legal intimidation. You used the courts as a tool for revenge. Marisol doesn't speak. She doesn't blink. But her hands grip the table like she's trying to hold on to something that's already gone. The judge turns to me. Mr. Castillo, I'm dismissing this lawsuit with prejudice, and I'm referring this case for possible civil sanctions. If you wish to file a counterclaim for damages, you may do so. I nod slowly. I will. The gavel drops. And just like that, it's over. But it doesn't stop there. The story hits the local news again that night. Judge dismisses lawsuit against leather craftsman, calls plaintiff's claims legal intimidation. The reporter uses my name, shows a photo of my shop, tells the story with just enough fire. Clients come back. Orders return, one by one. Even Mason. Didn't doubt you for a second, he lies. I don't call him on it. I just take his measurements again. 2 weeks later, I hold a small event at the shop. Just neighbors. Friends. Some barbecue. Some music. No speeches. No politics. Ethan comes early to help set up. Brings a small box. Inside is a belt he made himself. This time, he says, I did the stitching the way you showed me. See, I nod. It's good, I say. Real good. He grins. It's the first real smile I've seen on him. And as the night winds down, I stand by the door, looking out across the street. Marisol's house is dark. Curtains drawn. No visitors. Her garden bed is empty now. Just dirt and weeds. And maybe that's fitting, because some people plant seeds with poison in their hearts. And when they do, they grow nothing. Me? I rebuilt what she tried to burn. Not just my tools, not just my name, but the quiet power of someone who refuses to be erased. She left me a note that said, "No one tells me no, but I did, and I still do. Every time I stitch, every time I train Ethan, every time someone walks through my door, I remember that saying no isn't the end of peace. Sometimes it's the beginning of justice."